Welcome to the Veteran Lawyer channel, a place where unscripted life stories meet truth, passion, and transformation. I'm Lieutenant Colonel retired Catherine Gishuki, a lawyer passionate in criminal justice and a storyteller. Here we uncover raw truths, unscripted life stories. We inspire change. We become vulnerable and change perspective. Let's dive in. Yeah, today I am hosting a guest, a lawyer, a junior to me, a junior colleague, and an estate planner. When you talk of estate, it's not about real estate, but she'll tell us more about it. Please welcome on board. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Winnie is my name. I'm an advocate of the High Court. Thank you, Senior, for having me on your channel. Happy to be here. An estate planner and a certified trust and estate practitioner, trying to raise the bar in planning for our family wealth and also teach and train people how to deal with their estates.
So in simple terms, what do you mean by an estate?
An estate is anything and everything that is about you, everything that you own, whether that is your person, being your physical body, to the people that you relate with, your family, whether it's your parents or the children that came from you, and the things that you use your money to acquire. It's your gadgets, your home, your real estate or plots that we like to call them in Kenya, and anything else. Money in your bank, money in your mobile wallet, money in your wallets, your physical wallets. We deal with all that part of your estate.
Yeah. Is it a common thing in Kenya? Because I think from my interaction with various lawyers in this country, they don't really seem to be comfortable around that topic. Is it common? If it's not common, why so? And for yourself, you could tell us how you came across it. How are you an estate planner? Is it that you deliberately went into it, or how did you find yourself there?
Okay, that's a good question. One, is it common? I want to say one of the aspects of estate planning is common, which is will writing. We've heard of wills. We've perennially wanted to see what people mean when they say, I've written my will. And yes, that is where we all begin. From training as a lawyer, you have to learn the knickknacks of family law. So the family law also embedded into it is succession law. Succession law planning met me as a student and also as a graduate lawyer when I was training at the High Court Family Division. Okay. And I interacted a lot with the other side of estate planning, which is succession distribution, where if someone falls deceased, the family or their next of kin have to bring the matter to court. They have to give the documentation proving the assets belong to the deceased, that they also belong to the deceased and they would like to share amongst one another. That is where I first interacted with actual wills. People have written their wills, they come to court, they're sealed, they're opened in court, and now the person who's been given the instructions, being the executor, is allowed to navigate the distribution to the family and the people who are named therein.
When you say you first interacted with this succession law in the family division, how did you find yourself there? Was it during your pupillage? At what point did you go to the family division? And this is for the benefit of the young lawyers who are coming up and they don't know what are the opportunities out there. And if one is interested, how then do they go about it?
Okay. So at the time when I was in university, and I think for most law students who study in Kenya, you have to go through two practical experiences. One being in, your judicial attachment, and another one being in something within public interest. So whether it is NGOs, social welfare organizations, those are the experiences that are tailored into defining you as a lawyer. Are you someone who's more interested in business or business law? Are you more interested in social welfare and human rights? And you define yourself. So just before enrolling into the advocates training program offered by the Kenya School of Law, I joined a group of our classmates, fellow classmates, who were doing graduate trainee program in the High Court. So this is a program that is usually enlisted as legal clerks, legal administrators, and not the usual magistrate forums that are offered within the court system.
Yeah.
So as a legal clerk and administrator, we were part of the transforming the court system into a digital platform. So whether it was going through the records that they have, and that spanned years and years, I mean decades of files and paperwork that families had filed. And we happened to find ourselves in the family court because that is where the records are forever kept. So there must be some record for every single family, just in case someone shows up and they need to understand the history, the historical background of where their case came from. So that was the beginning of understanding what is succession from a practical experience in the court. But that doesn't water down the personal experience that I had, because while I was in university, I lost my mom. I also lost a dear uncle, and I could see the frenzy that you're thrown into, just the personal and psychological happenings within yourself, within your families, and now dealing with what it is that they owned. Did they own property? Did they own bank accounts? Who is in charge of getting these things done? So by the time I was joining this program, my mom had been gone for about 4 years. And I just realized, we don't even have a death certificate. What happens when someone passes away? You think it's normal to just get a death certificate, and that's not true. So at that point, I remember just approaching my family and asking, do we have a death certificate? And my dad graciously agreed, yes, we can process one. And, everything is kind of kept very tight-lipped, quiet. Nobody talks about death or even the person who's deceased because it's almost taboo.
Winnie, please talk us through, you talked about having lost your mom, and that sort of like provoked you into this awareness of families need to be prepared on how then to put succession issues in place. If you can just expound on that, and maybe let us know whether your mom died having left a will or she did not leave a will, and then how then did your family progress with that?
So I think the interest at that time was not necessarily a professionally led interest. It wasn't a niche I'd seen in the legal space, because all we knew about succession was you either do it in court or you do it in private practice, helping people distribute their wealth through succession. So the coming into the understanding of, so when someone falls deceased, this is what has happened, looked normal, that there was no plan. So she passed away not having left a will or any kind of instructions, but their interaction with my father, her spouse, seemed to have been clear enough for him to know what was where and what needed to be done at that time. So he navigated that space on his own. He probably sought professional advice, but we as his children did not experience that. We didn't have a window into, so what did he do? How did he do it? He just kind of navigated it on his own. And I feel most of families, or families where one of the parents passes away, the children are not brought up to speed unless you're old enough. And I want to put that in air quotes, you're old enough. If you're a young adult and maybe you've not started fending for yourself, maybe you've not even started helping your parents make decisions, you will not be kept in the loop. But now going into private practice, from that graduate program at the High Court, I went into private practice now during my pupillage. And in that practice, I did see succession. And I met my uncle's matter in that particular practice area. It had already become jurisprudence, or what the court has said regarding certain issues that have happened in cases. It had already become that. And one of the issues that was being discussed was, if a spouse had left the marriage without legally divorcing you and had gone ahead to get remarried in another country, are they still entitled to their deceased spouse's estate? And the court said no. So that piqued my interest. I wondered, okay, so what exactly does that mean? Are the children entitled on their own? And was the mother supposed to be getting anything? I mean, she was still married and she still did have children with a deceased person. Of course, when the court says no, the children take over. At their level, they were able to take over on their own. But that was something that in me, I felt, no, I wouldn't want it to go this way. One, it was a very public kind of matter. It was being discussed out there. You don't know who's going to come across these records, because I was looking at them sitting in an office in my private practice, not knowing this is what they had done in court. So you can just imagine how many people have gone through your records. Maybe they know you by name, they know your family, and they get to understand certain inner happenings that, you know, indignify a family in one way or another. So that is what piqued my interest. But I still didn't know estate planning was a thing. At that time. I was still learning, this is the way of life. This is what people do. This is how lawyers help you. You pass away, you come, you show us the death certificate, and then we help you move to getting their assets to yourselves as the spouse, as the children, or anyone else who was interested.
So when did you really get the hang of estate planning?
After my first year being admitted into the bar, I joined a law firm where will writing was the order of the day. Perhaps it was the kind of clientele that they were working with, more sophisticated people, more educated global citizens who had been around the world and have seen how Westerners do it. So the Western world, wills are the day-to-day. No one is afraid of writing a will. Actually, people write their wills and update them all the time. So I would help I would help senior executives, CEOs write their wills, and I was led to believe this is a preserve of a certain cadre,
a certain class,
a certain cadre of people. So if you're upper middle class, high net worth, ultra high net worth, you should write your will. And that was what they were doing. And they would write their wills. And that was my first interaction with trusts in Kenya, that families have actually come together to set themselves up under a trust, and they don't go through succession. It was new. It was interesting, and I almost envied how they did their things, because it was collective.
You're talking about a will and you're talking about trust. What's the difference?
A will is a set of instructions. So when you sit down to write your will, you're basically writing a story that will be read when you pass away. And you're telling your family or whoever is concerned that these are the things that I held dear. This is what I valued, and I would like for them to continue being valued and given to person A, B, and C in this particular manner. And their instructions should be very clear so that there's no vagueness, because if there's any vagueness or ambiguity, the court can step in and make a decision to make it more clear. So you see, your will is varied, or it can even be put aside. A trust is a different kind of tool. It's still a set of instructions, but to specific people or a specific entity, and those instructions are executed immediately you place them. The will has to wait for you to pass away. But a trust, those instructions will have to come in as soon as you have set them in place. So if I decide today, Catherine, I'm going to entrust you with my car, I need to hand over the car keys, and my instructions are that this car needs to be fueled at a particular fuel station. It needs to pick a particular person at this time, take them to this place. This is where it is parked. And those instructions will be done as soon as I've handed over the car keys to you.
Why would I want to do that?
My trustee. So probably it could be in various circumstances. Maybe I'm foreseeing an illness, or I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, which is going to render me incapable of driving my own car. So maybe I need you to be driving me. Instead of just hiring a driver and calling it, this is hiring a driver, you're setting up a trustee over your car, because it's an asset that you hold dear, and you want it to be treated in a particular way. So that particular car and that driver is a trust establishment in and of itself. So that trust is set up. If it were in a will, those instructions would be, this is my car, I drive it. When I pass away, please make sure it is treated like this. Whether it will be treated like that or not will not be in your purview, because you will not be around, and will also not be in your control. Because if the driver decides, I don't want to park it here anymore, I just want to sell it, take the money and go away, that's exactly what they will do. So that's the difference between the will situation and a trust.
So what informs the other one?
The will can inform a trust. Because the trust can be set up while you're still here, and you're able to give that asset to that trustee and tell them, oh, do this and this and the other. And when you pass away, they get further instructions. Please, now that I've passed away, please make sure you sell this car, downgrade to this type of car, or put this car in this particular person's hands, help them to navigate in 1, 2, 3 ways. So the trust already existed. This person was already driving the car and executing your instructions. Then they have added instructions through the will that has spoken to them after you've long gone.
Okay. So I've heard of oral wills. If you could just talk us through what is an oral will, and at what point then does it become valid?
Okay.
And it's common.
Yes, very
say
common.
Like traditionally in the villages, you just be told, mzee aliongea na akasema hivi na hivi. So is that an oral will, and how then does it become valid?
So in Kenyan law, oral wills are valid. When you speak into existence what you want to happen to your assets, you must speak it in the presence of at least 2 people. So I guess the gathering is important. And you must speak it at least to 2 competent people. They are not your beneficiaries. They are people who are independent and they understand you're making a will. So in some situations, the families would be called. Maybe the mzee or the old lady would call her children, and then she'd make sure her sister is there. Maybe there's a friend, an advisor, trusted confidant is there to hear them say to their children how they would like their wealth to be dealt with, or what it is that they believe they're leaving behind for their benefit. In that situation, that oral will only be valid if this person who is saying the will has those 2 independent people present and they die within 3 months of saying it. So if 3 months lapses, you must call the conference again and speak it into existence.
But the villagers don't know that.
No, and I think most...
Or it's okay unless it is challenged.
Exactly. So the aspect of validity is where now the court will have to draw the line. The court has to sieve it. So they'll first let's start with the obvious. When was it spoken? To whom? In front of whom? And then now they start sieving. Because I can easily say, oh, it was spoken in 2022. We're in 2025. I don't think that's valid anymore.
I don't think that's valid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and if you're in your ex-servicemen for the military, the oral will stands for as long as they're in active service and they die in active service.
Yes. So the 3 months doesn't apply.
Yes, the 3 months doesn't apply.
Listening. They should know that. And I think now currently there's actually a policy. They have to write wills, whether you're in active service or whether you're so they're making that happen.
That's good.
Now, what are the advantages of writing a will? Why would you tell Kenyans to write wills, or anybody out there to write their will?
I would tell everyone it's mandatory.
Oh, it's mandatory?
Yes.
What if I argue that I don't have anything? That's to make me write a will.
That's where we start. We need to look at you as a person. When you say I don't have anything, do you mean I don't own a house? I don't own land? Or I literally have nothing? I am, on the streets and I own nothing. Because the first thing you own is your body. Oh, it is yours. You came into this world with it. In the same way, when someone was preparing to birth you, they were controlling the environment in which you would be birthed, what would need preparation, how should we receive this body. You are now left responsible to how do we then deal with
I leave it to the villagers to decide how I'm being buried.
That's good. And if it were as simple as that, we wouldn't really have public cemeteries that are constantly getting full and people getting to, fight over deceased persons are deceased. So their corpses don't need to be fought over. So if you can simply tell people, this is what I want you to do with this the physical that you're seeing, that's the first asset that you have.
Okay.
And the first responsibility that you have. So as we've grown into understanding that information is power, we've also grown to understand our limitations, our restrictions. You've seen the families that you've come from. Maybe you know how the burial rites are attended to. Maybe you know your family is shy or they are private. Why not just tell them, I'm okay with you holding a private ceremony
Session, yeah.
and that's okay with me. The interment doesn't have to happen 2 weeks from when I pass away.
Yeah.
Do it immediately and get on with your life.
Yeah.
Or maybe you've taken cover, an insurance cover, to pay for your funeral expenses. Who will know that information if you don't put it down?
Yeah.
And the easiest place to place it is in a will.
It's in a will.
And then 2, I want to argue that if you have a phone, you obviously have a mobile wallet. If you're a Kenyan and you have interacted with M-Pesa, you have a mobile wallet. You have M-Shwari, you have a mobile wallet. Airtel money, mobile wallet. All that money cannot be given to anyone unless they have your PIN. And we all know what they say about PINs. PIN yako, siri yako.
Siri yako, yeah.
It's your secret,
Yes.
as long as you're alive.
Yes.
But when you pass away, your phone is an asset.
Yes.
You're probably in business and you receive money through that. Or you just receive this money, you're the treasurer of your chama and you've held money in M-Pesa.
Yes.
If you do not put it in your will, Safaricom will not give anyone access to those funds.
Okay.
It will not.
Yeah.
It will require them to go to court.
And by your death, get letters of administration.
Get letters of administration. And remember, to get the letters of administration is not that obvious.
Yeah.
You must get the death certificate. To get someone's death certificate, you needed to have held the original ID card.
Yeah.
If you are holding the original ID card, it means you're the closest of the close.
Yeah.
Then you get the death certificate. And then you go and ask the chief of your area
to confirm that you hail from that location, blah, blah, blah.
Hail from that location, you're known to that person, and this is how you're related, because that is the chief's letter.
Yeah.
The chief must indicate how you're related to this person and what gives you the connection to say, I want to go to court to be the administrator.
Do I even know my chief? I don't.
Exactly.
So you can imagine the process. Yes.
Over and above that, before you get your letters of administration, everybody concerned must consent. As long as they're an adult, everyone must sign that they are agreeing to you getting the letters of administration. So you can imagine, I have some 200,000 in my M-Pesa that could probably help, even with the funeral planning, but no one has my PIN. They forgot. I didn't write it down anywhere. Safaricom will not release this money.
Yes.
So they'll have to wait maybe like 2 or 3 months to figure themselves out so that they can get this money.
Yes.
And 3 months down the line, they probably buried me. They took some loans. They borrowed, which, I mean, even if we're in a Harambee culture, it's becoming a lot more closed off, you know? We're in so many... In Kenya, we say we have WhatsApp groups. We have so many WhatsApp groups raising funds to certain events where you're not really guaranteed that you're going to meet that funeral budget.
True.
So if you yourself can't support your funeral budget by taking out a last expense cover and making sure that your immediate funds are accessible, why not? It's as simple as that.
Okay. I think thirdly also, and confirm whether this is true, and maybe speaking to, those wazes who collect wealth here and there, but we don't know where it is. What would you tell them?
Interesting. Again, we're still on writing a will, where everybody, as long as they're 18 and over, needs to have a will in place.
Yes.
And a will is not an unbelievably unimaginable document. It's simply saying who you are, what you own, how you'd want people to deal with your body, and then how you want people to get access to what it is that you have, and who should get that access. Because not everybody needs
and what
access.
you have.
And what you have.
Yes.
This is my phone number, there's a notion where we're in the wealth transfer window. The boomers and the ones who are the forgotten generation are transferring wealth downwards. And transferring wealth means they're either passing on businesses or they are passing on assets that they receive. Their homes are also going to be occupied by new entrants. There's a new crop of people who are showing up saying, I didn't really know what they had. I know my father had money. I know my mother used to collect money. I don't know where from. I cannot trace it because either the notebook that they kept
Cannot be found. Yeah.
or you really didn't know where this place was.
Yeah.
So we have people who own the old homes, even in prime areas, they're collecting rent. They collect rent. No one wants to, when we're in data age and we still have people who fear giving out data. So they're still controlling their wealth in cash. And the cash economy is very big. You have people who collect their rent, even commercial spaces, in cash. Enveloped cash. So the landlord shows up on one day, they collect, and they disappear tomorrow, they come back next month, and so on and so forth. Some people come and collect commission, or they come and collect certain business income that they have. We have buildings, even in Kariobangi, for instance, that are owned by really wealthy people, but here the commercial tenants pay in cash.
Yes.
Or they sell a particular good in 1 day or 2 days.
Yeah.
The garbage collection paper bags, it's a big business, but it's given in cash. You pay, you get, you go. The person you're paying is the owner of the business.
Yes.
They're the ones who run, they control, they're the employee and the only face of the business. When they disappear, the business is still there. There's still the demand. The house is still there. The rent is still being paid, but you're not there. You're not collecting the cash. Nobody knows about it. So it will be lost in translation or in forgotten information.
Yeah. So it's good to write that will so that then whoever is left behind will know so-and-so had a plot or had a house in Kariobangi or in Riverside or Westlands. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And also, I guess, to also sort out, we've seen family disputes running into decades in court.
Yes.
So how would the will come through?
The will first will stop them at the gate.
Yeah.
Who is allowed to come into this fight? Yeah. First, let's discuss who are my executors.
Yeah.
I've given Catherine the power to talk to my spouse and tell my spouse, by the way, this is what she said. She wants this done, she wants this done, she wants this executed. And there are many, many good examples of how that has happened. Many prominent persons have passed away, and you can see their wills, much as it's publicized after it's opened, it's very clear. This is the person I've left in charge. They're the ones who are supposed to do X, Y, Z. So you pick your fighter. It's like your avatar.
Yeah.
When I'm gone, you continue fighting for myself, for my sake, my dignity. You preserve even the privacy of your family.
Yeah.
If you're in the succession drama, because the succession drama is first getting recognition.
Yes.
This person used to pay for me. Maybe you're a philanthropic person, or you're the breadwinner in your home. You're the one who made it. So as the elder sibling, you protect your younger siblings, and now you provide for even their children. Those children can come and claim dependency because you've been giving to their life rights, their education, their health. They can come and claim to be added as part of your dependence with your children. You can stop them at the gate and say, by the way, I've given you everything that I should have given you in my lifetime. Beyond here, beyond this point, only my family is allowed access.
So long as they are not appearing in the will, then they won't have a right to then go challenge it.
Exactly.
Challenge it in the court. But when you leave it open-ended, they can go and prove to the court that we had dependency over this guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I still want us to touch more on the trust thing. And also, as you touch on the trust and how to register trust and how beneficial it is, please also tell us the intersection between succession laws, and especially when it comes to children, and this whole idea of estate planning. Like, who can be disinherited? Say I'm writing a will. Who is allowed to be left out in a will, and who is not allowed to be left out in a will?
The Law of Succession Act, because that's the statutory base all succession principles on, besides common law and other, court jurisprudence, it's very clear. There are certain people who can be dependents. There's a list of people, and the list goes in order of priority. So your spouse, your first dependent, then your children, then your parents, then your siblings, grandparents, and so on and so forth. And we have people who are depended on by a wide spectrum of people. So you see, we've not even got to nieces and nephews. We're already at level 7. We're gone dancing all the way to level 7. Spouse is person number 1. Previously, pre-2023, a husband could not claim from his wife's estate. But that has changed. Thankfully, it has changed, because we know a lot of women who are the breadwinners in their homes, or
now
the
they can
higher
claim
income earners. Yes, they are a dependent. It's important.
It's important,
if a wife was to leave her husband with the children, he would also, feel the boost in getting her estate to continue fending for their children. And all the cultural notions aside, it's important to keep the family wealth in the family, the nuclear family that it was provided for. If you don't have a will, the court will look at all the steps to see who can be an administrator. If you have children, they're under the age of 18, you must have at least 2 administrators. So if you have a spouse, it will be your spouse and someone else. More often than not, they'll pick that someone else to be your parent. If not your parent, your elder sibling. So that that person has a connection to the deceased. The deceased here is the main focus. Who are they? What did they have? The deceased, if they had opted to write a will, you can practically disinherit anyone. Let me say that with a caveat. You can't disinherit anyone because there's no constitutional right to inherit. It's just the law of dependency that falls under succession laws that now dictate that if you're disinheriting them, at least provide something to allow them to say, fine, I'm not giving you my house in Karen,
but I'm giving you this.
And I feel like I've adequately provided for you in your lifetime. So that there's no fighting. Because we have families that maybe you have a home in South B, then you have another one in Kiambu Road. You want the Kiambu Road one as the middle child, and the last born wants the Kiambu Road one, and the firstborn gets it, and you guys are given the South B one. You will fight the firstborn, saying they got a higher value property versus us, and we want the will to be changed. There you'd have to prove that it was not adequate provision, rather than leaving them completely out of your will. And they now have to come in and split the 2 houses between more than what it is was provided in the will. So when you're writing your will, which is still important, again, it allows you to see your family dynamics. Who is my fighter child? Who is the gentler child?
So
is my spouse
in
going
some
to
way
be
you can
protected?
compensate subtly.
Yes, you can compensate, and you can give
who has
them
been on your
value.
team.
Who's been providing for me? Maybe you've been living with one child through your illness, and you feel like they need to get more from your estate. It's okay to reward a good standing child or your spouse, protecting your spouse from your own children. There are families that have children who are, they went astray. Maybe they have delinquent persons, or maybe they have special needs persons. You need to consider them. You can easily consider them when you're writing your will, because you're not writing your will for all of Kenya to read. You're simply talking to your family, and you can tell them. So not only are you passing an asset, but you're also giving them an insight into how you valued these things and why you saw it fit to give them like this rather than that.
So that's where now the role of a lawyer comes in. So you sort of like guide somebody when they're doing the will, so that they then don't make the mistakes that would then make a will be challenged in court.
Exactly.
But please also speak to us on a sensitive topic, and sensitive because it's something we live with, it's something we see every day. Children born out of wedlock, say maybe by men, but when now somebody passes on, we see them coming up. And so if you had a child out of wedlock, if you didn't put this child in the will, do they have a right to come and challenge this will? Either if you died intestate without a will, even if you didn't support them, even if they can't prove dependency in a court of law, how does that work?
If this child is a minor, the court would be hard-pressed to keep them out of your will, because as a parent,
You have responsibility.
You have responsibility over this child.
Mm.
And you didn't denounce your parental responsibility. I guess the only way you can denounce your parental responsibility is going to court and saying, this is not my child, or proving that this is not your child. But for so long as they are your child, you should make a provision. But I say that should loosely, because the court will not uphold that someone has come from the woodworks claiming to be your child just because they can claim to be your child.
Yeah.
They must have proof, because he who alleges must prove. You must have proof that I'm this person's child.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Okay.
Because the court does not know the deceased.
Yeah.
The court does also not know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the one who's claiming to know the deceased. You must prove the nexus to the deceased. So if a child is born out of wedlock, more or less they fight through their mom. If it is a father, they fight through their mother, because the mother knows the father of this child.
Yes.
But the mother must also know how to prove that this was the father
That was the father of the child.
Yes.
Okay. What's your parting shot? How would you want Kenyans and other people listening to you to deal with estate planning and to organize their wealth and how to bequeath it?
I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to even bring it to the table as a conversation.
Yeah.
One, because there's more damage in no planning than there is to simply putting the plan.
Yes.
The reason why we are so informed is because the world has opened up. We've seen how others have done it, and if it has worked, it works. If the Western world has formed trusts that have held family wealth for generations, why not set one up for yourself?
Yeah.
If you're looking for a way to see how a will is written, you have a lot of technology at the tip of your fingers. You can easily just get this information. Use your AI. Use your AI and ask, what does it mean to write a will?
Yeah.
Then if you want to understand, because the legal background, why Kenyan lawyers are important is because they understand the Kenyan law.
Context.
The Kenyan context, what the courts have said about this, and how to learn from other people's mistakes. But that being said, writing a will is mandatory. Make sure you tell people how to deal with you and what you hold on the day of your death. Why I say that is no one knows when they're going to die.
True.
If we did, we would simply be saying, okay, now, tomorrow, I'll not be here, you proceed. But if you don't know, why not then tell them, in case I'm not here, this is what I need you to do.
Okay.
The setting up of a trust conversation is not a very complex conversation. It just allows you to say, I don't really want to write my will just yet. I need you guys to first start handling it. Then we can write your will.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you do both of them at the same time, you'll have the jackpot in estate planning.
Okay. So if people want to find you, to find Winnie, to write wills and register trust,
so on social,
where do you practice?
I sit at a corporate trustee in Nairobi, and we help people navigate this conversation. But if you want a more, informal conversation, I am on social media as Estate Planner KE on all socials except for Facebook.
Okay.
That's on Twitter, that's on IG. X now, IG and TikTok.
Okay.
LinkedIn, Winnie Maingi is my name.
Okay.
You can chat me. Information is free and information is power. I can share with you the lessons that we've learned in the journey of walking people through their estate plans. And also the most asked questions. What are the mistakes that have happened and how can I navigate away from them? So make your plan.
And good that you've talked about LinkedIn. That's actually where we met. So it's a powerful tool.
It is.
Let's use socials to connect and network. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
today.
Catherine, for having me.
Thank you so much for listening in today. If today's story on estate planning has resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share. Stay bold, stay inspired.